Hello everyone and welcome to my review for Chainsaw Man Chapter 87. We got a fairly short chapter this week, mostly because it was almost entirely action, and the action scenes in Chainsaw Man usually don't have a lot of dialogue, so they're pretty fast-paced. But I would say the most important thing we learned. There are two really important things. The most important, immediately, is the reveal of, let's see, 4 new hybrids. Isn't that fucking exciting? So we have a spear hybrid, a whip hybrid, a western sword hybrid, which I'm just going to say is the sword hybrid. So Katana Man, Shadman, is specifically a katana hybrid, and then we have a sword hybrid. And then there's a flamethrower hybrid. Now, I don't know how I feel about the flamethrower one's design, just because of the angle. The head looks kind of dumb, and the sword hybrid looks kind of shitty. But the spear and the whip hybrid, holy shit. Those are really good designs. I am loving it. So, we've got 7 hybrids fighting the Chainsaw Man at the same time. And what do you think happens? They get fucking annihilated instantly. Now, of course, we know that the hybrids are all immortal, so this isn't going to kill them. Presumably. I mean, we don't see him eat any of them, so they're alive still. It's just, they can still be rendered out of commission. I would say the purpose of this chapter, in large part, is just to show how absolutely fucking busted Chainsaw Man is, even though we kind of have already figured that out from the last 5 chapters. We have very clearly seen how busted the Chainsaw Man is. What with him fighting the hordes of hell all on his own. But we have seen that Quan Chi, Reze, and Shadman are all very strong. Specifically with Shadman and Reze, we had entire arcs dedicated to them beating the shit out of Denji until he figured out a strategic way to beat them. They're all stronger than Denji. But now, holy shit, we even have 4 new ones that we've never seen before, and these are all presumably fairly strong, I guess? I mean, we don't see any of their capabilities, but I would assume that, probably, the Flamethrower and Whip Devils would be pretty strong. The thing is, some of the hybrids seem like they would be way stronger because things like bombs and flamethrowers are much more currently in the mind of the people, because they're much more modern creations. So you would assume that they would be the much stronger hybrids. But them also being human is something you have to take into account. So their skill level can also affect it. I would say that Quan Chi is probably the strongest of the hybrids, which is weird because she's an arrow hybrid, which you would never think would be very strong. But it seems like most of that comes from Quan Chi's own abilities. So most of them, we don't even see. It seems like he just zips right past them. The first one he takes out is Quan Chi. He fucking annihilates Quan Chi. No chance. 0 difficulty. Then Shadman shows up and tries to do that thing where he, zoops past you. Oh, did I just make up a word? He crouches down and he just, fucking flash steps behind you or in front of you and you're all diced up into pieces. But Chainsaw Man pulled out a reverse card this time around and doesn't even move, and Shadman gets cut up into a bunch of pieces. So that just goes to show you on how much of a higher level the Chainsaw Man is in comparison to all of these characters who we've pretty much established as being way stronger than the Denji that we're familiar with. And even Makima herself says, "Yup, doesn't look like we can win this one." So, I mean, obviously she's going to have something else up her sleeve. Almost definitely. Her goal is still to control the Chainsaw Man, Her plan is not to be eaten. Her being eaten is just like, oh well, what can you do? It just basically means that she doesn't really care that much if her plans don't work out, but I'm almost certain that she has something else up her sleeve here. I'm almost certain of it. And also, the other hybrids are still, like, fine from what I can tell. Who's still here? It seems like Reze and the 4 other new hybrids are basically unscathed, but Quan Chi and Shad have been obliterated. Now, the other really important thing in this chapter is some lore. Oh boy. Chainsaw Man lore is always really neat. I don't know why. It's just sort of the way Fujimoto writes it. Now, this is an unofficial speed scan, so this may not be totally accurate. Once we get the official scans on Sunday, the definitions or the fucking dialogue or whatever may change. So with that in mind, Makima says that the hybrids had a name in the past, but it was eaten by the Chainsaw Man, so it disappeared. However, they did not disappear with it. And out of the countless things that the Chainsaw Man has eaten, this is the one exception, which is fascinating. I wonder why that is. And then Makima goes on to explain that the Chainsaw Man was fighting the Weapon Devils and the Four Horsemen. And in the middle of that battle, he disappeared right before their eyes. And she says hours, so I assume Makima was there. I mean, Makima being the Chainsaw Man fangirl that she is, I would assume she'd be following him around to watch all of his fights. Especially if he's fighting people who are, like, actually competent. Or on his level, I guess. Because we've already seen that the others are quite competent. But they're not on this level. I should probably preface that Chainsaw Man is, like, easy top 3 in the verse right now. Somewhere around the Gun Devil and the Darkness Devil. Of course, the Chainsaw Man seems to have the power of being fucking good as shit. Like, just being busted and overpowered. That seems to be the Chainsaw Man's power right now, is that he's just overwhelmingly more powerful than literally everything else. So who knows? I don't know. I mean, the Gun Devil just sort of has, like, instant hit techniques. And it's probably safe to assume that if he was fighting the Weapon Devils, then he probably would have fought the Gun Devil too, unless she's only specifically talking about the Weapon Devils inside the hybrids. Now, this is interesting. So it's possible that these guys, these are Division 5, by the way, these are all of the hybrids. There are no more than these 7, 8 if you want to include Denji. These are the only hybrids. Perhaps there would have been more if Aki had regained control of his body. I mean, I guess then he would have been a hybrid. Which is interesting. The Gun Fiend is the only non-hybrid Weapon Devil that we've seen. This is interesting. So, I guess that's really all I have left to say about that. Do you know what this chapter reminds me of? This is fresh in my mind because I only recently read this, but this reminds me a lot of Aizen versus the Gote 13. You have several of these characters that we've already established as being, like, really good, and they team up against this one character, the main villain, though in this case, it's actually the main protagonist, if you can still consider him that anymore. Right now, he's just sort of an entity, and they all get washed, just completely. They don't even lay a scratch on him. It's very similar to that. It's probably the most similar thing I've seen to that. Now, I have not read all manga, so Aizen vs. the Gote 13 is the one versus many smackdown that I am most familiar with. I know Madara from Naruto fights an entire army, but that's like an actual army and not like a squad of people. So this is much more similar to Aizen. But it's quite cool. Now, since the other 5 hybrids are apparently still in one piece, it would probably be safe to assume that we are going to be seeing the Chainsaw Man fighting them next week, probably coming to Makima's rescue or whatever, or rescue, quote unquote, since they do seem to be very dedicated to her. Hopefully, we'll find out why they are so dedicated to her, like what exactly Makima did. I guess it would maybe be something similar to how she got control of, like, Angel and Aki. That's probably, like, the safest bet. We know that Makima is able to control people who think they're lesser than her, so she doesn't even really necessarily need to do, like, fucking brainwashing techniques. She could, like, everyone's already scared of Makima, basically, so she could probably just control them immediately. It wouldn't really be an issue for her. But I'm very excited to see what happens next week. I assume we'll get to see what these other new hybrids can do, since we're already familiar with what Quan Chi, Shadman, and Reze can do. So hopefully we'll get to see what these cool new guys are capable of. But yeah, that's all I have left to say. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. I do Chainsaw Man reviews every week. If you enjoy other series such as Record of Ragnarok, Jujutsu Kaisen, and Kengan Omega, I do videos on those series as well. So if you're interested, you should definitely check out my channel. If you enjoy discussing Chainsaw Man with other people, or you just enjoy the content I produce on this channel, I would highly suggest that you check out my Discord server. I have a link to it on my channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you around.